bringing hope to the hopeless, leading the orphan to the Father Heart of God. Fundación Corazón del Padre, the Father's Heart Foundation. So this is just a little bit about our ministry, the community or the village where we're working and where our children are also growing up, doing missions together with us as a family. And you can see this is when we got engaged in El Salvador, November 2007. Our first son, Benjamin, growing up together, Eleonora, and then later Esiona, and now baby Charity. El Salvador is a beautiful country with a painful history and a rich cultural heritage. We're working in Quezaltepeque in a community of about 600 families. The majority of these families are woman-led and living under the poverty line. A few families grow their own food or keep animals, but the majority of squatters are not allowed by their landowners to have a garden or even keep chickens. Living in poverty, regularly affected by natural disasters like hurricanes and earthquakes, and oppressed by the gangs, families feel hopeless. I took my first trip to El Salvador, and I went for 4.5 months to volunteer at a government orphanage. And so in this government orphanage, we had this fairly small room with just covered in cribs, and there were 50 babies in that room with only one local Salvadoran staff member. And that just really broke my heart, seeing these babies. They had between 2 to 5 babies per crib just laying there, and you would walk around and hand out bottles and not even hold the baby to give them their bottle, but you would just lay it down on top of them, give them their bottle, then walk around and collect the bottles, then walk around and change their cloth diapers and clean their bedding, put them all on the floor for tummy time. But they really had no love. They were not receiving the love of a mother or a father. They were just there, existing. And my heart really broke for those children and wanted to see something change, something happen where these children could be given family. And at the same time, I became connected with a local Salvadoran church, and so began annually visiting El Salvador for between 1 and 4 months and working in women's ministry and just getting to know the culture, the language, and seeing how could the church in El Salvador do something about this, because I as a person felt like I can't do anything about this. God needs to connect me with somebody who can lead this project of this great vision that I had of seeing children placed into family and seeing these babies that were being abandoned put into family. No, honestly, I respect him. I love him as a brother in Christ, and I really just want to work with him. I'd be happy to introduce him to someone in El Salvador that he could marry, and he would be there and we could work together. But somehow her asking me that question throughout the next week, I began to think about it more, so that by 7 days later, I came to the realization that if I'm going to work with Samuel, we better be married.
And so when I met Charity while we were at that institute, she had been to El Salvador, and she had, done a lot of work in El Salvador and talked about the orphanages there. And I just like, wow, that they speak Spanish and they have, children there that can be taken care of. I want to go visit that country. And primarily just because of my love for the language and the opportunity to be among the people who speak that language. So 2007, I made my first trip to El Salvador. And I got engaged to Charity, my wife, in El Salvador, 2007, November. And we got married a year later. And after our honeymoon, we basically packed and moved to El Salvador. So welcome home. This is going to be where our first house is going to be built, and right here will be the first house, and then the second house will be somewhere over there that's not yet cleared, and the admin building and the football field is going to be on the other side, close to the main entrance. This side is going to be a private side where families are. The other side is the public side, because on the other side you'll find a football field, you'll find the main admin building, and up on the hill you'll find a small structure where you can have coffee and internet and things like that. But right now it's all bush, there's no internet.
So one of the things that's really important to us at the Father's Heart Foundation is sustainability. And we want to make sure that we're not always having an open hand waiting for people to donate to us. But initially, we do need donors. If you're able to give, whether that's $1 or $1 million or anywhere in between, we need that money to get started. We need funds to begin. But what we're going to do with those funds is invest them into a sustainable ministry, so that we're not coming and knocking on your door again in 10 years asking for another donation, because now we're sustainable.
Okay. And just to add on to that, I do not want to be a ministry that's taking care of about 100 children and depending on month to month for a donation to come so that we can go to Walmart and buy already made food. I think that's wasteful. What I believe in doing is raising 100,000, investing 100,000 in the production of food in such a way that the 100,000 continues to produce food for the next 20 years. I believe that's sustainable. And it is not a theory that is far-fetched. I have done it. And it's, my family has always lived off of the land. And it's the only way we know how to live, and it's doable. And we want that to be the model and the legacy that we leave behind those children that come into our lives, that when life becomes tough, that they will have something to fall back to, and that is agriculture, knowledge that will go on to be passed from generation to generation.